Rome's army once stood on a beach in full battle formation, swords drawn, facing the open sea, waiting for the order to attack. The enemy was the ocean. The man giving the order ruled the most powerful empire on earth, and he meant it completely seriously. To understand how Rome arrived at this moment, go back 4 years to a boy nicknamed Caligula, Little Boots, a name Roman soldiers gave him as a toddler after his father's troops dressed him in a miniature army uniform to win the soldiers' affection. He hated the name his whole life. He could not escape it. By the time he was 24, he could not escape much of anything. He became emperor in 37 AD, and for the first 7 months, Rome loved him. He lowered taxes, he freed political prisoners, he held magnificent public games. The historian Suetonius, who would spend the rest of his account cataloging horrors, admits this much: the beginning of Caligula's reign was a genuine triumph. Then he fell seriously ill. Ancient writers describe a severe fever, possibly encephalus, that nearly killed him. Whatever it was, it changed something permanent inside him. The man who recovered was not the man who got sick. Within a year, he had executed his adopted heir, forced his own father-in-law to suicide, and started telling Rome, without irony, that he was a god. He meant this literally. He ordered the heads removed from statues of the traditional Roman gods and replaced with sculptures of his own face. He had a private bridge constructed connecting his palace directly to the Temple of Jupiter so he could walk over whenever he wished and have full, screaming arguments with the god's statue, as one equal speaking to another. Then there was his horse. Incitatus, his prize racehorse, lived in a marble stable. He drank wine from a jeweled golden cup, ate from an ivory feeding trough, and had his own staff of servants. Caligula seriously discussed appointing this horse as a Roman consul, the highest elected office in the empire. Whether the appointment was ever finalized is debated by historians. The message behind the threat was not. Caligula was telling Rome's proudest political institution something simple and devastating. An animal could do this job, and the animal would cause less damage than you have. In 39 AD came the bridge across the sea. An astrologer had once said, as a figure of speech, that Caligula had no more chance of becoming emperor than of riding a horse across the Gulf of Baiae. Caligula heard this as a personal insult from fate itself. So he requisitioned hundreds of Roman merchant ships, chained them together across nearly 5 kilometers of open water, covered the decks with soil, and built an actual road across the sea. Wearing a cloak modeled on Alexander the Great's own armor, he rode his horse across it. Afterward, he threw a massive party on the floating bridge, got severely drunk, and ordered his own guards to throw a number of his guests into the water to drown for entertainment. Then, in 40 AD, came the war on the ocean itself. Caligula marched his legions to the coast of Gaul, supposedly to invade Britain. When his army reached the Channel, he changed his mind entirely. He did not declare war on the Britons. He did declare war on Neptune, the god of the sea. He ordered thousands of battle-hardened soldiers to draw their swords and attack the waves directly. He had heavy artillery set up on the beach and fired bolts into the open water. When the ocean was, in his judgment, sufficiently defeated, he ordered his men to fill their helmets with seashells as plunder and marched the entire army back to Rome to present the shells to the Senate as spoils of war. By January 41 AD, the people closest to him had stopped finding any of this funny. A Praetorian officer named Cassius Chaerea, a veteran with 30 years of military service, had been personally humiliated by Caligula for months, forced to repeat obscene and effeminate passwords aloud in front of other soldiers every time he reported for duty. Caligula had mocked the wrong man one time too many. On January 24th, 41 AD, Caligula was walking through a narrow underground corridor beneath the palace after watching a theatrical performance. Chaerea and a small group of fellow guards were waiting in the dark. Chaerea struck first, a blow that nearly split the emperor's jaw open. The other officers closed in immediately. They stabbed him more than 30 times where he fell. The man who had fought the ocean, nominated a horse for political office, and argued face-to-face with the statue of Jupiter, was killed by the one force in Rome he had personally embarrassed one time too many. Rome buried him quickly, without ceremony, without a monument. The ocean, by every account, remained undefeated.